as we know, the dismissal of Black women is due to discrimination, racism that's embedded into the medical system. But let's just talk about how this dismissal is seen. Like I said in the last video, OBGYNs can acknowledge that this is like a racism problem. Black women are being dismissed at these high rates because of racism, because they're told that, this just can't be. There's nothing wrong with you, you know? But another thing I want to talk about when it comes to the dismissal of Black women is that the impacts that our community has. The Black community has a problem when it comes to addressing or talking about physical and mental health, especially when we try to address the problems of physical and mental health care within the community. But it's something we should talk about, especially due to these high rates of dismissal for Black women in pregnancy, because Black women are more prone to get hypertension and hemorrhaging, and that can lead to blood clots. And then when you have a blood clot, you go into shock, and then you die. Like I said, Black women are dying because of dismissal. And it's like a way that we can combat the dismissal is also just to be more open about our experiences and just how and what we can do to change it,
Black mothers are dying during and after childbirth at a rate 3.5 times higher than white women. Federal health data shows the racial health gap for Black women is increasing, with systemic racism and unequal access to medical care being the main causes. The data also showed that overall maternal mortality in the U.S. has dropped since the COVID pandemic.
Another fact that's important when talking about dismissal of Black women during pregnancy and childbirth is the fact that Black women are more prone to stress. And I feel like during pregnancy and childbirth, it's like this because a lot of Black women already know that, like, everything that they're going to go through, like, okay, this might happen when I'm giving birth, and the doctor might not do this right, and I want this and I want that. And it's like, I feel like a lot of women experience high amounts of stress during pregnancy, but it goes unaddressed. Also in the Black community, more so due to the problem of just like not talking about our mental health, not having somebody to lean on, not having anybody to talk to. But one thing about stress is that the hormones within our body during stress, okay, they send blood flowing to the muscles in the heart to help the body run faster and fight harder. And that's not necessarily what you want to happen during pregnancy, and it leads to a greater risk of hemorrhaging and hypertension. So it's like all of these outside factors, everything else that Black women face to a higher extent versus other women in their day-to-day life also leads to the point that we need to be careful. We need to be sure. We need to have our voices heard during pregnancy. It's not good that we're being dismissed when we're already at a higher risk of all these things that can have our pregnancy go wrong. Like, I know so many Black women, and I've heard so many stories of them hemorrhaging and having blood clots and, their lives being saved. But it's like, what if that wasn't the case? Was it like for so many other Black women out there who die due to their voices not being heard? What if that wasn't the case for all these people in my life that I know that are here and that can tell their stories now? It's not that Black women don't know that there's something wrong or they're not doing enough to prevent it. They know something's wrong and they're not being heard. They're not being heard, and that's the main issue, is that doctors, nurses aren't hearing Black women out when they say that they're in pain, when they say that they feel something is wrong with their body that they have lived in for years. And that dismissal is leading to all these complications and problems. And there's so many complications and problems that can happen during pregnancy. I feel like a lot of people don't understand everything that can happen during pregnancy and all the complications that can actually happen during pregnancy. I know one that I was even shocked to find out is that you can lose your eyesight. Like, you can go blind during pregnancy, And that's why they say that a lot of women, their eyesight gets worse after they have a kid. But it's like, no, like you could go completely blind. Like it happens progressively, of course, but it's like you wake up one day and you're just blind. And I feel like that's so scary. A lot of people don't know what can actually happen. Like your body is not the same. There's so many things that can go wrong. We don't understand. We understand that during pregnancy you're growing life, you're growing a new person. But it's like that takes so much strength, and it takes so much of your body, the nutrients within your body, your strength, your mental health, your mindsets, and all of those things can get passed down onto your kid, which is crazy. Like you might be stressed your whole pregnancy, and that can somehow hinder your child in some way. That's why it's so important that when you're voicing your concerns to your doctors, that they listen to you and that they hear out your concerns so that you could get that help that you need for yourself and for your baby. And this is an ongoing problem. There was an act passed in 2021 called the Maternal Health. Black women receive different and less frequent treatments for the same issues as the white women. So they can have the exact issue, but they're treated differently and less frequently for the same exact problem. And what that leads to is more problems for the black woman. Black women are compared to women in lesser developed countries, like third world countries, when it comes to our mortality rate. And that's all because of dismissal. That's all because of black women being scared to go to their physician because they feel like they're going to be dismissed. And all that stress does is put us in even more danger, because all that stress does is affect our body in a negative way, which causes more problems, but can lead to more things and more issues like hemorrhaging and like hypertension, and all those things can lead to death when they go untreated. And it's not something that happens really slowly. It's not something that's gonna really just happen like 10 years after you give birth, even though it might. But a lot of the times it happens only a few days. For some people it's a few hours, for some people it's a few minutes. So this dismissal and this lack of care goes a long way in how many black women suffer, how many black women die, how many babies walk out the hospital with no mother. And that's the reality of black women being dismissed while being pregnant and after giving birth to their kid. Because some of these problems show up after. And like I said before, black women experience so many postpartum complications. And most of those postpartum complications that they have lead to death, higher rates than any other race in the country. While we're such a small percentage of the women in the country, yet we have the highest rates. The highest rates. A lot of people try to equate this dismissal and equate the rates to being the fact that so many black women might live impoverished in the States or live in a lower class in the States. But then you have stories like of celebrities, for example, like Serena Williams, and when she was giving birth to her first baby, she was hemorrhaging and she felt it. She felt like something was wrong. And at first her doctors dismissed her. They didn't listen to her. And this is a high profile person. Like everybody knows who Serena Williams is. She's one of the most accomplished female athletes in America. People know who Serena Williams is. She has money. She definitely doesn't live in a impoverished place. She doesn't live a impoverished lifestyle. She has everything. She's comfortable. She's living life comfortably. But yet she still faces this problem. So it's not even an issue of, oh, it's because they're in underdeveloped or underfunded neighborhoods, because this is happening in neighborhoods that have money. This is happening to college educated Black women. It's happening to college educated Black women more than it's happening to Black women who haven't been in college yet. That's what all the facts say. So why is it that people try to minimize the situation by just saying, oh, it's because they're underfunded? So, but even if it's underfunded, why don't we have the funds, or why don't we try to come up with the funds to help fix this problem? Because at that point, it's not just a problem about Black women, it's a problem about every woman who lives in an underfunded community, underfunded county, an underfunded state, you know? But it's not just that. This is happening to Black women who are living life comfortably. It's happening to Black women who are healthy. They're doing everything right for their baby, for their kid. They're staying fit. They're staying healthy. They're taking all the vitamins, everything that they need to take. But they're still being dismissed, push come to shove, when there's a problem during their pregnancy, while they're giving birth, postpartum. And that's why we have the highest stillbirth rate, even though we're just a fraction, hardly a fraction of the female population. That's why so many women are dying, the highest death rate of women in America due to postpartum related issues and complications. Because it doesn't matter where you're at in life, it doesn't matter if you're educated, if you're not educated, it doesn't matter. If you have money or if you don't have money, you still face this dismissal, no matter where you're at in your life. There's more stories in general of just people dying, women dying because of postpartum related issues, and that could be related to the fact that there's not that many OBGYNs or practicing OBGYNs right now in America, but also the fact that all these things that were happening post-COVID are just being so much more amplified now after COVID. So Black women being dismissed is happening at much higher rates than it was before. So that's more deaths, more stillbirths, more complications that we aren't trying to actively combat. And when Black women are put in these situations, they don't know how to effectively combat it. They don't know how to change the course or the way that it's running for them. And all it does is it puts them at even more risk. Because a lot of Black women know that they're facing this. They know that they're likely to be dismissed, but it's like, how can we avoid that dismissal? Or better yet, how can we make sure that this doesn't happen to us? Make sure that it happen to our loved ones? Well, there's a good thing that there's a lot of things, a lot of organizations that have come up that are all about protecting Black women.